I need your help because a lot of people are saying, Kevin, you ran for governor in 2021 under a really common sense platform in the middle, trying to appeal to the 80% of that middle group of Americans. Simple things like financial education in schools, solving homelessness, and actually trying to spend less money in a reasonable, common sense way for government, killing things like the high-speed rail in California. Well, now we've got Elon Musk with the America Party. He's technically said he's filed for it. We're still waiting for official filing documents on the American Party. But the America Party, per Elon Musk, is this idea that we're going to promote a neutral, common sense approach, center home base for people who feel politically homeless. And honestly, I kind of have to say, I've felt pretty politically homeless because when I ran for governor in 2021, I always told everyone, people are like, oh, what party are you? And I'm like, it's 51-49. Does it really matter where that 2% is? It's about the middle ground and trying to do the best for most people. That's not really how American politics works, mostly because there's no funding for third-party style candidates, and they don't get the kind of recognition that you would anticipate good ideas from a third party would get. It's partly because of party registration and sort of the way the Electoral College rewards sort of this two-party system. But this is interesting because Elon Musk quote tweeted this. He says, is this the America Party platform? So I like to call it TAP, T-A-P, the America Party platform. And the idea is reduce debt, responsible spending only, modernize the military with AI and robotics, pro-tech, accelerate to win in AI, less regulation across the board, but especially in energy, free speech, pro-nationalist, and centralist policies everywhere else. Now, what I think is this is a good sort of starting point. There are a lot of things that you could sort of evolve this in. I'm not sure that sort of on like a state basis, it's so important to focus on, AI, robotics, and military. This feels very Terminator-esque, especially if like you run for governor in California. Terminator 1 and 2 reference, the big event in 2029 in LA. So there's definitely some concern around this. And frankly, I don't think we're so advanced yet in humanoid robotics as maybe we hope, but it will be coming. But things that you could add to this that Elon Musk has previously talked about as well is this idea of reinvigorating nuclear energy in America and sustainable energy in sustainable electric grids. Another thing too is Elon's considering building a solar factory in America, so that way we could take advantage of Made in America solar tax credits. And these are things that, potentially Elon could do in a state like California if he actually had a governor with the cojones to say, hey, maybe bring Elon back home and go back to bringing reasonableness to America. So I like this pro-tech, pro-trade school, teaching people how to make money, pro-financial education. These are policies from our 2021 campaign, many of which align sort of with what Elon's going with here. Now, the problem with this is in order for a third party to actually make a difference, you need people to change their voter registration. And I don't know how realistic that is. And so that's where, I want to see what everybody's opinion is on this. But I think there's an interesting argument to say that well, here's how things work in California, for example. In California, you need 75,000 people to register for the America Party, basically by December, in order to qualify the America Party for, or a candidate under the America Party to qualify for the primary, which is next year, middle of next year, in the summer of next year, we have the primary in California, which in California, it's first two, or I should say top two. It's not really first two past the post. It's top two candidates, regardless of party, end up winning in California. So in California, in a governor race in 2026, you could actually have a third-party candidate competing against the Democrat or Republican, but you could also have two Democrats competing against each other, or two Republicans competing against each other. So interestingly, this idea of the America Party, which, Elon's focus isn't necessarily governor. Elon's focus is more on sensitive sort of swing Senate and House seats. but a governor race can enable the attention and coordination and funding that these seats might require, not only in state legislatures, but also then in federal races. So I think it's very interesting to consider that could you have the America Party or governors running under the America Party? I think it's a really, it's a long shot, but there are some benefits to potentially people running under the America Party for governor, because even though it's a long shot, you are able to become a voice for the politically homeless, and you could win. And that's because of the way the sort of election system functions in California, that you don't necessarily have to be a Democrat or Republican. It hasn't happened before. And the other issue is, what if Elon flip-flops, right? So the way you probably do it is you'd run under, the D or R label until TAP actually gets the registration that it needs. That's probably the way to do it. And you become a voice for the politically homeless, the people who say, you know what, think about what a politically homeless person is. Someone who hates that we had an incompetent, president. It's sad, right? But someone who also hates the flip-flopping of Trump on, tariffs or war promises, right? Or even like Epstein promises, right? So what you're really doing is you're looking for somebody who says, hey, look, this stuff pisses us off on our leadership, but what we really want is a focus on financial education, helping younger people get ahead, help people with trades and actually have the ability to make money and build wealth over their career. How about actually having affordable housing by building more homes rather than, having income restricted properties that only help certain people, or these insane policies like what you're seeing in New York. New York and the Mom Donnie drama is a disgusting excuse for Democrats, in my opinion. It's like it shows just how extreme Democrats are going, in sort of contrast to what you get on the Republican side, which is basically all in on MAGA. And so this middle ground is really lost. However, all this said, you do have a problem with Elon. You do have an Elon problem remains. The Elon problem is, do people look at Elon as a loon, right? So, I personally think don't bet against Elon. And frankly, he's probably at a low point right now, which sort of opens up this question to does it make sense to, for example, run for governor under the America Party and bet on Elon at sort of a low point, or and then really try to become that voice for the politically homeless, even though it's a long shot, it could be done. So it has potential. And I think it's really interesting to consider as a possibility, because first of all, nobody else has indicated, this idea of sort of jumping on the America Party idea. But I actually think it's perfect, because it at least gives that middle American a voice. That's just my opinion, and I think it's something that's missing. Somebody here in the chat writes, Kevin hasn't read Trump's books. Wrong. I've read almost all of his books. I've even read Ivanka's books, The Trump Card, and I read Art of the Deal multiple times before Trump got into presidency. It's very interesting. So that's another thing that I always think is interesting, too, about politics and speeches. Everybody can kind of throw out their comments or their opinions, but what people really should be thinking about doing is asking questions. Because if you ask questions like, hey, Kevin, have you read Trump's books? I could tell you. And then you wouldn't have to speculate and make yourself look like a fool. Nathan here writes, Trainwreck Elon is not as talented as Kevin Trump. Well, thanks for saying that. I also would never try to downplay the innovations and the success and the genius of SpaceX and the things that have occurred at Tesla and the innovation in electric vehicles at Tesla. I actually really respect Elon a lot. I think his social IQ and political IQ, maybe more of an EQ, is on the low side. But you know, it's you know, you got to give him credit where credit is due. I think he's a brilliant person. I think what Elon really needs is a friend. Like I honestly believe, and I know this is hard for a lot of people to believe, but I honestly believe he's lonely, and you know, there's no real family dynamic, and it's hard for him to have a friend because a lot of his friends care about, you know, money or politics or whatever. And it makes sense because usually in order to make money in America, you kind of just have to shill one belief and hope you're right. And then that way you look like a hero when you're right. And people usually don't really care for nuance. They just want, like, you know, what's the current hot thing? And so there are definitely, I mean, there's definitely room for this sort of nuance in politics. I think it's very interesting. So, yeah, well, anyway, let me know what y'all think in the comments on that one. I think that's an interesting topic.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.